Very excited to kick off today's late August coffee chat as we get together here before the end of the summer, I suppose. Brad and I are both in the South, so it's a cool 96 degrees here in Atlanta today.
Let's get started.
I'm sure it's nice and hot in Dallas as well. I couldn't be more excited to have Brad from Punch Drunk Chef joining us today. Runs a phenomenal meal prep business out of the Dallas Fort Worth area. We've gotten to know each other over the last year or so, and just absolutely respect everything that he does, both in the kitchen, but also the energy and the way he thinks about his business and he thinks about life in general is just so energetic. So happy to have you here today. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this and for joining us. Really just want to spend today digging into your background, talking about your business, learning a little bit more about the things that drive you. We call these chats the Bottle Coffee Chat, and we have named our community the Bottle Coffee Community. And really, this is a community for food entrepreneurs and specifically meal prep entrepreneurs to connect and learn from each other. And we're up to 200 members. It's really starting to grow, and it really feels nice to start to see the benefits of the community. It's a way for you to give back. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask what your caffeine ritual is. I can't even imagine, but maybe do you drink coffee? I think I might have heard a Monster before on a pre-show.
The local cold brew. You got to have your water and just mystery beverages.
Okay, awesome. I love that. Who is the local cold brew?
Local cold brew is LDU. It's an Australian guy who started it here. He's got like 4 or 5 locations now, and it's literally the best cold brew and drip coffee around. It's just awesome.
Awesome. That's cool. So I'm curious, and I think this is always interesting when I ask chefs this. Do you, in addition to coffee, do you have any sort of morning routine or a morning ritual? And what do your mornings look like?
Man, really, it's just get up, go, hit the ground running. I got to be there in 30 minutes out the door, and then grab your snack bar, start the day, and figure out food along the way. So just
Okay. And is be there? Is the first place the kitchen or the gym, or where do you head?
yeah, usually gym, and then because it's 95 degrees on the cool morning here, and you take a shower there, and then find your way up to the kitchen.
Awesome. And what's your I know you work with a lot of fitness professionals, but I'd be curious to hear what's your relationship with health and wellness and
Where my name started, Punch Drunk. So when I was in culinary school, I was amateur boxing. I made a lot of food and I took a lot of punches. So Punch Drunk Chef. So it's always been more like the extreme fitness kind of style. So then after that, I started doing century bike rides, and then I got into the CrossFit community, and I've been here ever since. So
interesting. Why boxing? What grabbed
I've always been into like martial arts, and it's the aggression. And after entering a sparring round, after 4 or 5 rounds, a couple minutes each, there's nothing in the world that can touch you. There's no stress, there's no anger, no energy. Like everything just gets released, and it's the greatest cardio in it. And it's fun not getting punched and also punching back.
And is that something that you've always been interested in? Have you always been into athletics and combat sports, or is that new for
Mostly,
you? Or?
High school was military school. A bunch of guys trying to, outman each other. So judo in high school, jiu-jitsu in college, and then kickboxing, Muay Thai in post-college or culinary.
Amazing. And are you still doing that? Or are you?
No, I turned 40 this year. I'll take them as well.
So what'd you do to end up in military school? I saw that on your background.
It's a good question. I moved around a lot, and I moved schools a lot. My folks were physicians, so always working and just finding the right schools and whatnot. And I voluntarily went to military school because I was at a point in my life. I did the summer camp, and I was like, I hate it. I don't want to go here. My dad's, are you sure? And I had this weird, just mature moment in my life where I'm 16 years old, 15 years old, and I was like, I need some structure. I'm not becoming what I want to become. I'm just like looking around my friend group, and we're all just getting in trouble and just really rebellious. And just, I knew I needed something to set me on the right path. So I was like, you know what, let's do it. And that first year was the hardest year of my life. And then after that, I adjusted. I fell in line with the system, and it really matured me by a decade compared to where I was going. And yeah, I needed that direction.
Cool. Interesting.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Sounds like it was a positive experience.
It ended very positively. Yes. So
yeah,
it's
rocky beginning.
Harlingen, Texas. So you think it's hot in Dallas. It's twice that down there.
Okay, nice. What was like the idea that most people would go into the service? Because I didn't see. Did you serve
A
in
lot of
military
people,
school?
no, I did not serve. A lot of people did go into service. My original game plan was to follow my parents' footsteps and become a physician. So my undergrad in college was actually biochemistry. And upon leaving military school, it's a Marine based academy, and Marines don't have their own doctors. They use Navy docs. And so we're indoctrinated to, oh, nobody wants to go Navy. So then I was like, you know what? Hey, let's go to Texas Tech. And that just opened up the floodgates for me.
And why? How was biochem? That's a pretty complex. That's a pretty challenging major,
It,
I would
it, it
say.
is a very challenging major. Just, I guess the way my brain works, I don't think like linearly. I think in puzzles and just like different ways of thinking. I'm like, so mathematics and science really came fairly easy to me. And obviously, being further into biochem, it gets much harder. But that's just how I'm wired and how I'm built, and it just clicked for me. So like organic chemistry and stuff like that were like my favorite classes because
Hmm.
you're literally piecing together like molecular puzzles that you can't even see. You just have to visualize.
That's funny. I've heard that organic chemistry is basically where you find out if you're going to be a surgeon or a psychologist. If the
Yeah.
surgeons can get through and the psychologists will go back to the liberal arts.
It is a
No
major.
offense to any psychologists out there,
Yeah.
but
But it's how I apply it to food though, because like you have to, you take your common ingredients and you look at it in a different way, and you got to think outside the box and essentially figure out the puzzle to create a new recipe. Like a lot of my recipes are very mathematical, very for this, two of this, two of this, half of this, and are based on ratios. And so, like when we come up with new recipes, like I can visualize what I want and the recipe, and we nail it on usually by the second try max. Of it's all people don't understand how much science and math goes into cooking and creating cool recipes, and that's where I get to play the best of both worlds.
very cool. But yeah, so like, how'd you find your way into food and walk us through your culinary background? And
Yeah.
obviously, there's some
So
passion there around the math and science, but
it's all about passion. Without
yeah,
that, I wouldn't be anywhere here today. I'd always been in the service industry, whether it's my first waiting table job was at IHOP, and then we had a place called Trail Dust Steakhouse where they cut your ties off, and it was real goofy. And then, but I'd always waited tables and been in the industry. And then during college, I would cook for my friends. I wasn't very good at it, but I was always trying new things and experimenting, and just I really found a passion in it, just the service side of things, because you're able to make people smile. You're able to create something and not only fulfill them, but bring them together, bring them around, have a moment of silence while they're eating, have joy and laughter while they're not. And it's just, so I figured at the end of my college career, like it wasn't med school. That was not meant for me. And culinary school was the next step. And so I did that. And luckily I had my undergrad. So I got to focus strictly on culinary school. And I didn't have to take any of the extracurriculars or anything like that. And so all I did was focus on cooking and honing my craft. And from there, I worked back of house for my first line position. And that was a major learning experience that they don't teach you in school. And from there, I worked management, front of house, back of house, open restaurants, closed restaurants, been GM all the way down to busser, all the way to line cook, all the way bartender, just chef, everything in between. And finally, it came to a point where I'd spent my entire life building someone else's dream. And how I started this is I joke that I got fired for the last time. But really, what it is, I had been spending my entire life building someone else's dream and making other people smile for other people's ambition. And it was time to build my own. It was time to live with my own purpose. And so I set out with all the hopes I could, a couple friends, and a credit card. And I was able to apply my personal mission statement to my business. And that's to be an advocate of positive change in the lives of those around me. And after I left my last official job, I went to New York for a week and a half, went to a food and wine festival, and just got fired and inspired, and came back. And I was telling my friends out there, I was like, this is what I'm going to do. And they came back down 3 years later and like, holy cow, you're right here. Yeah, it's all about passion. It's all about finding other ways to make people's lives better, finding other ways to make people smile, finding other ways to make just spread joy and happiness throughout your community. And I'm able to do that with little boxes of meals.
so cool.
Thank you.
What made you come up with your own personal mission statement?
Great question. Hold on. If you haven't read this book,
Oh, it's upside down. There you go.
Success Principles by Jack Canfield, it's a life changer. Really, because I spend a lot of life just what I call skateboarding or coasting, where you go from one job, you start firing passion, then you just cruise, and then firing passion, then you kind of cruise, and finding purpose. And our industry is an industry built on passion. And if you just find yourself burning out, because there's a high burnout rate in our industry, then it robs you of the joy of life. And I can't remember exactly how I came across this book, but I read it and I'm just like blown away. It literally is titled "How to Get from Where You Are to Where You Want to Be." So back in 16, I think it was, I went and saw Jack Canfield speak, and I'd just gone through a life changing experience and was lost in my own world. And so I went by myself, and I'm sitting on the front row, and I met this lady next to me who barely spoke English, but we are doing a thing together. He's like, "All right, grab a partner. We're going to go through some, sketches." And within 10 minutes, I'm bawling, like uncontrollably bawling. And then she is as well. And we can't even really understand each other, but we understand each other. And through that little seminar, you do these worksheets and you narrow it down. And my purpose got outlined. And in that seminar, I still have the notes. It was to bring people together of different walks of life, to share meals, share stories, and have quality time. And that eventually turned into my mission statement of the advocate of positive change. And it took me a couple years after that, because I didn't start this until 2018, to really apply it. But from that moment on, I knew I was meant for bigger, for better, and knew I was meant to spread more joy in this world than what I was currently doing. And so that's really how I attribute to finding my purpose and finding my true passion. And yeah, I couldn't more highly recommend that book. It's
Yeah, that's awesome.
We'll
We'll put
20 years
that
more.
in the show notes. It's a really inspiring story. Yeah, you hear a lot of like sports psychologists and the self-help people talk a lot about mission values alignment. So I'm interested, obviously you have your purpose. We haven't really gotten in yet to your business. You run a meal prep business, high level, but we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But I'm curious, like at that inflection point, you said that was 2016, you went to the Jack Canfield event. Was that the point where you started to think what you do today, running a meal prep business, impacting people's lives the way you do? Was that the point where you thought this is what I want to do? And I'm curious like how what you do ties in your mission. Like what is it about running a quite sizable meal prep business like yours that really fuels you and does fuel that mission every day? Because yeah, I'm sure it does, but I'd love to hear it.
And I love that, because like back when I did the seminar and I started developing my purpose of why I'm here, I still had no clue. I still went another 2 years with no real clue. My last job, I opened up a brewery here. I was the general manager and saw this thing get built, helped design everything about it. 2 weeks before we opened, the chef quits. And then this was like hit the ground running. And so they're like, "You're a chef." I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm also the GM." I'm like, "Congratulations, you're both now." And so within 2 weeks, I developed this, I was proud of it, menu. And we do a photo shoot and this and that. And we're like, "All right, we're about to open." And then our PR lady's, "Cool, are you ready for the brunch photo shoot tomorrow?" I'm like, "Brunch menu." So it's really like thinking in the moment and really just figuring it out as you go. And that's how I really built this business, because once I left that job, I still didn't quite know what the next step was. And then I'd done meal prep for myself in the past, especially during my boxing phases. And you got to eat really clean, really lean to make weight. And I was like, "That's it. I've done it for myself. I've done it for friends, and I've done it." And I was like, and it makes people's lives easier. And I knew that was it. I went to New York and I ate at every single place I could. And I was just like, there is way more out in this world, way more flavors, way more profiles than I'd ever been exposed to. And culinary school was great and it exposed me to worldly cuisines, but then really seeing it in New York City, like where food was, a lot of chefs argue food is not art, but I believe it is. And it's inspiring. And I get to use that we don't do any marketing or advertising in my business. We only do word of mouth, pop-ups and stuff like that. So we get to know a lot of our clients firsthand. And so we've got about 200, about 200 active clients right now, but we send it out to about 800 people on and off. And we can tell you first name basis for way over half of them. And a lot of them, they come in, they pick up from the kitchen rather than delivery because they want to say hi. They want to build this relationship, and you just engage them. And it all resorts back to passion and feeding your community and feeling the people. And that 5-minute window once a week that you meet with Gwen and Greg, and they tell you their stories and their vacations, their travels. And then you share the stories and you hug. And it's a meal prep business, but now it's beyond that. It's bigger than that. And you're more impactful, and we're able to just not just physically feed the community, but proverbially feed the community. And it's so rewarding to just be able to use this avenue as not only a way to extend our reach of spreading positivity, but to give back to our community. So a lot of our works and what we do, I might be getting off topic here, but we do a lot of engagement in our community. We're doing a Thanksgiving event with the Boys and Girls Club where we're going to feed 150 kids. We did a basketball camp with an NBA player where we just went out and fed 300 kids. And it's these things, we didn't set out to make $1 million. We set out to make $1 million community. And that's really where I wake up every day and I go to sleep every night knowing that we're doing positivity and we're spreading joy, we're spreading happiness.
It's amazing.
Thank you.
Going back to the New York trip, I have a bias. I lived in New York for over a decade.
Yeah.
Where were some of the places you ate? What inspired you?
See, okay, so that's a long one because that was like 6 years ago. But it was
let's go top three inspirations.
I think the one place is called Dead Rabbits. Now, this wasn't necessarily a food place, but it was like they're known for their number one Irish coffee, right? And so you're thinking, okay, cool, an Irish coffee, I've had that, but the way they do it to the level of art, of perfection. And I think it's in this Jack Canfield book. It's no matter what you do, whether it's taking out the trash, whether it's making Irish coffee, do it to the level of art. Now, I'm probably misquoting it a little bit, but it's seeing that and like seeing, I just walk and I wouldn't have any destination. And I was going from A to B, but then I'd stop at C, D, E, F, G, H. And I sometimes wouldn't even make it to my destination because I'd stop and have a bite here and have a bite there. And everything was to the next level. And it was so much more elevated than I was used to. And I just left a brewery where I created the menu, but it's still brewery type food. It wasn't your tater tot kegs and your smash burger and your this and that. It was everything to the next level. And I got to go back to my pictures because it's a very reminiscent trip. But then we went to the Food and Wine. My family met me that weekend. And we went to the Food and Wine Festival. And every major restaurant there was displaying little one-biters. So you get to essentially tour the entire city within a convention center. And I just came back with notes and recipes and ideas. And just like, I don't have it on me, but I have a little book that I always carry with me. It's my little black book. I'm now on my second one, but it's just got everything detailed out. And it's just, yeah, it's a crazy city. That was my first time to go. So that was very
nice. We should go together someday.
Yes, sir.
I actually, funny enough, I remember I worked the Food and Wine show.
Yeah.
Gosh, it might have been 2009, 2010. I got assigned to one of the Top Chef, like a Top Chef, someone who had won Top Chef.
Yeah.
She was number two.
Cool.
I think her name was Nikki. I can't remember. So I worked her, and I really didn't come from a hospitality background. So I worked her booth. I must have handed out like 400 quinoa, something.
Yeah.
And what is it? It's a quinoa with chicken and curry. And 4,000 times I said that. It's a great show. Getting on topic, because I'm sure there's a lot of people here who really want to hear about nuts and bolts of meal prep. Tell us a little bit about your business. You mentioned you went to New York, you aligned, you have your mission, you really have built community, but talk us through the process of going from, I have this idea, I've figured out my mission, it's 2016, it's 2018, I'm going to do meal prep. What happens then? What are the steps from zero to your first meal out the door, and then from your first meal out the door to your first, now have 200 clients, but your first 10 clients? I'd love to hear the early days story, and then we can talk about some tips and tactics as well.
So it all started with a dream. And I had about 10 or 15 friends and family that I went to, and I was like, hey, this is my idea. This is what I'm going to do. And it's really funny, sad in hindsight. They all tell me years later, yeah, nobody thought you could do it. Nobody thought. And I was like, that kind of fuels me even more because, it's just, no, I have a dream and I'm going to do it. And when you're left essentially with nothing left but just fire and passion, you make it work. You figure it out and you pound the ground until you come up rising. From the ashes, rise the phoenix. So I had this small group of friends that I was delivering out of my own car and like just going to, if y'all don't know the area, but like 50 miles this way, 10 miles that way, 20 miles that way, outrageous amounts, just doing everything for these small test group. And eventually it's all about relationships. And well, then all of a sudden, one of my old boxing friends was like, hey, me and my family would like some meals. And then he put his brother onto it. And then my other friend put his neighbor onto it. And then it's all word of mouth and just going out there, not only making the best product you can, making the best impression you can. And then in 2020, that was the year that changed everything for us. So,
and how big were you at that point? You were doing, was this still 10, 15 customers, or were you a little bit bigger?
Probably about 20, 25 consistent customers. I was still doing pen and paper. I was doing you need to look at these old books. I have check marks of or hash marks of like how many each meal I make. If I had to make 50 of one meal, I was just like, how am I going to do this? It was crazy. And now we're doing 250 of one meal. I'm not even batting an eye. And it's craziness. So 2020 was obviously a weird year because of relationships. So I was at this gym in our area, and one of my gym mates, he was running a comedy club right down the street. The comedy club's owned by this truck yard, which is what the bar is called. And they were building out a commissary kitchen, and they needed someone to help open it because they're busy running a very successful establishment. And this was one of my original prep lists. If that makes any sense to anybody, probably not. But yeah.
It looks like the Notebook from the Bear. If you need some PTSD, or if anyone, if we have a bunch of food people, you haven't seen the Bear, you really should. But that's certainly reminiscent of
it's a little PTSD for me, but it's a good show. And because these relationships, the owner of that building was like, "Hey, we're opening this commissary. We need someone to help." And so then he put me in touch, and I opened this commissary, which is essentially like a shared kitchen for food trucks. And they gave me like cut rate deal, like awesome, like connection of to be able to use this kitchen. So I had my first official kitchen. And then the pandemic starts happening. We're like, what's going on? It's crazy. And so my idea was to get an old mail truck and to turn it into a food truck. So I was thinking very small minded then because my business is very small. Well, I'd roll up to gyms, sell meals, roll up to the next gym, sell meals. So here I am flying from Dallas to Wisconsin. Never been to Wisconsin. And I buy this old mail truck. It's just a stripped like USPS truck.
Like little or like a big?
No, it's a big one. If you look up Workhorse P42, that's what it is.
Okay. All right.
I don't have a picture of the bomb pop today. If y'all look at my Instagram, you'll see plenty of pictures of it, but it's a lot different now. But
it's a wild truck. If it's the one on your Instagram, it's like
a wild truck.
Looks like a psychedelic adventure truck.
Yes. Yeah. So here I have, and the guy's really pressuring me to buy it. And I get it for pennies on the dollar because it's beat up. Some family bought it from the government, turned it into a little camper. They had a fold down bed and a little refrigerator. And then I buy it. And then the next day, the world shuts down. Every restaurant closed, every city closed, everything. And we're just like, what is going on? Stay at home, all the protocols. And so I'm driving this beat up, brakes barely working mail truck from Wisconsin to Dallas, going through Chicago. And there's a fun photo of it. Y'all can see
that's the old school.
That's the old one.
Yeah.
Thinking like, I just spent my last dollars and I make a mistake. What is going on? Like the doubt and the fear and the fear of failure starts setting in, and all the things that an entrepreneur doesn't want to feel, but feels on a daily basis. I'm starting to sink. My business is okay. We're doing 150 meals a week, which is, still pennies on the dollar. And we get back to Dallas. I'm like, crap. And then everything's shut down. And then everyone starts cooking and everyone realizes, hey, we're going to be chefs now and we're at home. So we're going to focus our craft. And we took a hit. We took a major hit. And I went from, I think it was 30 customers to, I think, back down to 10. And I'm just like, what do we do? Nobody's hiring. Nobody's just, if I fail, then there's nothing left. And I knew that didn't matter. I knew that I had to keep pushing through. And so all of a sudden, being Dallas, we love going out. We love people cooking for us. It's a city of food and drink. It's awesome. I love this place. Everyone wanted to start ordering out again. And nobody was in restaurants. So all of a sudden, we go from, oh, to now we have a private kitchen and an old mail truck that we gutted, put a window in, and eventually some refrigerators and a generator and whatnot. And now we're delivering. So people are like, oh, y'all deliver. No gyms are open. No, nothing's open. But people are starting wanting fresh cooked meals. And so then we started delivering, and then we started increasing the business. And then eventually we got the truck wrapped. And once we got wrapped, that was the game changer, because now we're a mobile billboard. And people are like, what is this? And with no advertising and marketing, you got to be loud. You got to be proud. And if you see our trucks, like they're very eye-catching. And from there, we just continued to grow and grow, but a lot of roadblocks along the way. From that point, we're now roughly 8 times the size that we were. And that was in 2020 to 2024. And it's just been natural organic growth. And with the obtaining vehicles, it's really just, it extends, people want it brought to the door, but then also that adds another variable where it's, who are your drivers? They're the last representation of who you are. So who drives for us is our friends and stuff like that. And honestly, a lot of our drivers come to us because they're clients. And It's just built, like I said, building those relationships. People are like, I love this product. I want this product. I want to be a part of it. I want to help spread the joy. And if you see our kitchen, everyone is just happy. And it's just a great environment. And it's really
Yeah.
about the culture you keep. Because
Well, let's
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'd love to come back to culture, but I'm curious. Let's talk. So there's two things that stuck out to me there. First, I want to hear about both the guerrilla marketing that you did with the truck and that journey. But before we do that, Hannah, one of our other customers, is curious, and I have one of my notes here. Let's talk about your dishes. I want to hear about. You mentioned some of your process, but let's hear about the names, the
The
creative
name's
part
half
of.
the fun.
Yeah, let's
One of
hear
the
tell people about the names, tell them about how you think about the dishes. And in that, I'd love to maybe you can share some tips around early day procurement,
yeah.
how you source ingredients all the way through to like how do you think about sourcing now as you get bigger? I don't think this is a trade secret. You do have your own kitchen now. You went from commissary to your own kitchen, which we can get to in a little bit if we have some time. But yeah, talk about your meals, your most popular meal, the names, how you think about it, how you procure. I'd love to hear that.
Okay, that's actually a really good question. In culinary school, I remember this one quiz we had, and I was still a rebel. I'm coming in from biochem degree to culinary school, and I still had this ego about, oh, I know more than I do, and that ended up biting me in the ass along the way, but learning from it. So I remember taking one quiz, and it's multiple choice, and it's what are the traits that a chef needs to have? And one of the answers was ego, and I was like, being cocky in young 20s. I circled that one, and it was clearly the wrong answer, but I'd like to argue. And I pleaded my case and this and that. And so when I first started, I had my classic culinary, like everything had to be classic technique and this and that. I made a bolognese that was still one of our most popular dishes. We call it Yolo Bolo. And it's a great dish. But I was grinding my own tomatoes. I was like just everything along the way. And I realized that's not expanding. We're looking at some of our classic recipes this week and just laughing at some of the techniques that I was using. It's really what it is take the ego out of it because inspiration comes from everywhere. Somebody is always going to do it better. And so a lot of my dishes, and here's where we get a lot of free play, is we take, like we're putting a buttered chicken on the menu this week, but obviously we've got to make a meal prep. We've got to make it healthy, but we're getting inspiration from everywhere. One of our most popular dishes is a buffalo pulled chicken dish called Bad Mother Clucker. And so sometimes the dish comes first, sometimes the name comes first. And so we come up with just like crazy ideas from places we eat. So me and my chefs will go out to eat. Oh, and I'm being reminded of we do a bone broth chicken noodle soup type dish, and it's called Send News. And we want to be catchy. We want to be edgy. We want people to be like, that's funny. How did you come up with that? And every meal doesn't just have the ingredients. It has a small story behind it. Most everything on my menu has some sort of story. This week we have a Hatch chili dish called Chili or Chilies because my friend from New Mexico, where Hatch chilies come from, was like, it's pronounced chili. And I'm like, it's pronounced chilies. And so that's where the name of the dish comes from. And so everything, just put a little passion behind it, put a little story behind it. And we now are fortunate these days to where we have such a good team that one chef can go out of town. I can go out of town. This other chefs go out of town. Traveling is a big part of the inspiration. I had the opportunity to go to Japan 2 years ago.
The
And
best. Talk about mastery, like
yeah,
absolute best.
absolute mastery. That's the greatest place in the world. If you ever have a chance to go and just want to blow your mind culinarily, go there, culturally as well. We get inspiration from there, from other local chefs, from the connections you make. Go to restaurants, talk to the staff, meet the team, dive into the food, and get inspiration from everyone. And yes, there's cookbooks and there's Pinterest and there's all these things, but really experience it, develop like a passion or a story, and then put that into your meals.
Yeah.
Really, like a lot of our stuff, I'm a huge Ninja Turtle fan from back in the day, right? So we have one summer salad we do. It's like strawberries, blueberries, strawberry vinaigrette, but it's shredded cabbage, shredded carrot, shredded this and that. And it's called the Shredder, based off of the old one of
Amazing.
Turtles. And then we came out with a counter dish called, what was it? The TMNT, the artist formerly known as TMNT. And it's a combination of Prince inspired and Ninja Turtle inspired, not only colors, but flavors. And it's got like a pizza pulled chicken type flavor profile. Obviously not pizza because it's healthy, but it's just find that inspiration. And if you can tell a story with it, that's what sells and just sells it to the people before they even try it. Because one thing I learned, not only in culinary school, but through my experiences, is people eat with their eyes first. Way before you ever taste it, way before you ever smell it. When you see it coming to your table when you're at a restaurant, and make it visually appealing, have multiple colors, have a variety of ingredients. And like, especially sourcing ingredients is very important. We have a company here called Chef's Produce, and Richard Torres, he's the owner of it, and he's just a great guy. And he helped me start my business. He wanted meals and I needed produce, and he has the best produce in town. And it's so we bartered. Right. That's how I got started, because running something off of, like I said, a credit card earlier, it's a little scary sometimes. And you build these relationships because I've been in the industry. I'd worked at restaurants that we used his company, and he loves, just like I do, helping someone get started. And so now I'm in a position where I can help others get started. I can help our friend who's going to be doing dumplings, and we're going to partner with her, and she's trying to get hers off the ground. She's very successful and has made sauces and won awards, but needs that next step. And so we share a kitchen with a coffee roaster, our guy Ryan of Lemon Drop Coffee, and he was around since our first kitchen, and now he's back in our kitchen. And it's just about building those relationships, back to topic, finding the inspiration. It's like some of our most popular dishes is that buffalo pulled chicken, something simple, something classic, but it's nostalgic. The sides on it are mirepoix, or carrots, celery, onion, and mashed sweet potatoes. And so how I got that inspiration was literally eating at Buffalo Wild Wings. You got your buffalo wing, you got your carrot and celery, and you got your sweet potato fries, but you can't sell it like that. You got to make it healthy. So it's sweet potato mash, roasted veggies. And so you can get inspiration from anywhere, and you can turn anything into a healthy meal prep version of it. And so really, it's just getting out there. One of my personal favorite dishes is called Dr. Girlfriend. So Dr. Girlfriend is the name of my motorcycle, and it's based off of a character from the Venture Brothers. And it's this beautiful, statuesque arch villain lady, and she's got this really low, grumbly voice. So hence what my bike's in it. But she's got beautiful, delicate features. So what this dish is, it's a turkey burger with our house seasoning on a beautiful, delicate feta, sun-dried tomato, spinach salad with a lemon vinaigrette. So it's got the mean, hearty patty, but the delicate features. And it's just based off of something I was inspired by. And like I said, that's from a cartoon. It's from a motorcycle. Like, anything can be inspiration.
Awesome. So I'd be curious you mentioned the pulled chicken dish is one of your most popular.
Yeah.
How many are you doing? How many meals you typically have on your menu a week? How
So
are
that's great.
how many do you rotate your menu? And like, how do you handle production from like a large scale perspective in terms of organizing your meal prep business crew for all the responsibilities?
Yeah.
We'll come back to the responsibilities one, but let's start with how many meals are on your menu, and really how do you think about the variety of your menu and how, shuffling the meals around
Okay,
and
that's
changing your menu?
I love this question because there's three parts of being a chef. There's creativity. Can you come up with something cool and creative? Can you hire, train, and keep staff? And then can you run numbers? Can you have a good food cost, have good labor costs? And so without all three of those, you can't be a good chef. You can't be just creative, make a good menu, and then walk out the door and not be able to perform. So when it comes to my menu, it involves all three of those. So we only do 7 meals a week, 7 different options. We just increased breakfast from 2 to 3. So essentially now we have 10 items to choose from. And so that helps. You want to have cross ingredients. So if you're bringing in broccoli, have broccoli on your bulk menu, have broccoli on one dish, maybe a second dish. If you're having bell peppers come on and it's good bell pepper season, have that on 2 different dishes. So that way you can control your food costs. That way you're not trying to do too much. Your menu is concise. It's got enough variety on it. And when we do chicken dishes, we have 4 to 5 chicken dishes. So we're getting 12 cases at a time. When you do your beef dishes, cross-pollinate that with one of your breakfast has beef. If you have one item on multiple dishes, you've just drastically controlled your food costs and reduced your waste, because now you can flex. One thing, especially here in Texas, is corn. We have corn from Mexico, corn from Texas, and it's just great product, but it's very seasonal. Sometimes it's 50 cents in a year. Sometimes it's $1.50 in a year. And that way, if you're selling $11 meals, you're losing your butt if you're not controlling your food costs. So we rotate weekly. So the menu changes every week. Now, not all 7 items. So usually 2 or 3 items will come off, 2 or 3 items come on. I actually had the opportunity of sitting down with a former executive of Territory back when they were still around. I don't know if y'all are familiar with them. They were a national meal prep brand. They had fridges in all the gyms, but they would keep a stagnant menus for, I think, 4 to 5 weeks at a time. Nothing would change. And that's how they would major food cost control, but then you're losing clients. I know what I tell people is if I get bored of my meals, I know somebody else is, and they're going to stop buying them. I want to have something new, fresh, exciting every day of the week. And I'm a little more to the extreme of that, but there's something between eating the same thing every day and eating something different every day that you got to find that balance. And that's really what keeps you fun, fresh, and exciting. And I had the fortunate of talking to a lady in New York about her business, and she rotates weekly as well. And that's what you have to do is to keep people engaged, because the second someone thinks that healthy is boring, you've lost the battle. We're here to make people's lives better, make people's lives healthier, eat cleaner, eat leaner, eat meaner, but you don't want to get bored of it. So
Yeah.
keep it fun, fresh, exciting, but keep it concise. Keep it. If you do too much, you're gonna drown. You're gonna draw yourself too thin. You're gonna end up with $500 of extra produce or waste or this and that, and then you're doing yourself no good by carrying all that extra product.
There's a question about your team, and you mentioned culture, and I want to come back to that in just a second. But I want to circle back to this idea of the meal, the food truck, and the guerrilla, what I would call guerrilla marketing. So can you talk, are you open to sharing a little bit about like how you approach growth? Because you've obviously built this amazing meal prep business. We have seen you grow even in the 6 months that you've been on our platform so much. You've talked about relationships and how much they matter to you. And we've also seen that in getting to know you and knowing how you text with customers, how you message with customers. Can you talk a little bit about what your growth kind of strategy is at a high level? Trade secrets here, but
Yeah.
what are some of the things that have really worked for you to grow your business, to build those relationships? You obviously have a very magnetic personality, but beyond that, what are the things that you've done to build your business and grow your business? Maybe talk a little bit about the food truck and partnerships and customer relationships and how you think about, and then maybe a little bit about what comes next for you. How do you think you grow into the next stage, or what are your ambitions for the next stage in terms of growing your business?
Awesome. I hate to keep repeating myself, but it's about relationships, right?
Yeah.
And so, small story, when I first started, when I was just getting off the ground, when I'm still like no idea what I'm doing, I had my head coach at the time, Priscilla, and her look up her Instagram, Scylla Bobilla. And she was always an inspiration. And she works, what coaches have to do is they have to work in multiple jobs to make ends meet, or multiple gyms, excuse me. And so what I did is you establish one, your home base gym, and then you talk to this other gym, you talk to this other gym, and you say, hey, honestly, if my biggest piece of advice is give out your food, give out your food. Once people try your food, they will buy your food. I'm assuming a lot of the people on the chat here are also meal prep companies, and you're doing pretty some great stuff. So hand it out. Just let them try it. You can give discount codes or promos or stickers or flyers all day, but it's just like a business card. The chances of me using that 50-50. If I actually have something tangible in my hands to enjoy, especially a meal where you get all the senses, you see it, you hear it, you smell it, you taste it, then you have increased your ability to turn that into a long-term client exponentially. One big thing we do is, so with that head coach and also good friend, Priscilla, she's a part of what we have here in Dallas called the Fitness Ambassadors. And it was started by a lovely lady named May Lynn. And what they are, it's a group of just fitness enthusiasts that are trying to build their own personal brands and go around and help gyms and spread community. And that's been, because of her, is now a later in life relationship. So now we have more access to other gyms and pop-ups with them and social media. Really, it's just been build those relationships. Go to your CrossFit gym. Go to the gyms that have culture. Not to say anything bad about big box gyms, the gyms where people go just to work out by themselves with their headphones on, low retention. It's a lot of people, a lot of foot traffic, but low community. You want to have your culture aligned with the culture of meals, aligned with the cultures of the gym. Because if you've been a part of a CrossFit gym or F45 or a fill in the blank, a HITS gym, anything, it's about everyone's there doing an individual workout, but as a team, as a community, as a culture. So engage your community. Go out to gyms, say, hey, I want to feed you guys. How many are in the noon class? 15 people. Here's 15 meals. Here's set up in between a 4:30 and a 5:30 class. That way you catch two classes coming in, coming out, and then just take it to go. Get their numbers if you can to put into bottle, but get out there, pound the pavement. I tried once early on an Instagram ad, got nothing out of it. Got to be seen. You got to be heard. You got to be. And so once you get them to actually take your meals, because if you hand me a business card, it's going on the desk. If you hand me a meal, I now have to do something with that. And I'm going to eat it.
Yeah. That's
Give them
awesome.
ounce of cookie and they're going to want some milk.
I think I read my kids that story last night. Flat, great book. Cool. I do have a question about culture, and then I also want to make sure that we don't miss talking about how you think about delivery.
Yeah.
But on the culture side, talk about your staff, how you've grown your staff, how you've hired. I think you're one of your amazing
Yeah.
staffs. I think Ariel might be on the side over here, even helping you while you're doing a coffee
Yeah.
chat. I love it, you guys. But yeah, how do you divide responsibility? How do you staff up, staff down? Let's mainly focus on kitchen staff, but also you did mention a little bit about your driver staff, and that will hopefully parlay a little bit into talking about how you handle delivery.
So it's all about culture, right? And Chef Ariel, who's my right hand, has helped me build this business arguably more than anybody else in the world. She was working at our friend's restaurant and I was bartending across from my first kitchen. And I'm sitting there at the bar, like, figuring out staffing and figuring out this and that. And I think I had 2 prep cooks helping me out at the time, still a very small operation. And then our friend Austin, the owner, comes out and he's like, well, we're shutting down tomorrow, like every other restaurant had to. Yeah. She's like, well, I'm out of a job. Yes, you did. I look her dead in the eyes. I go, you need a job? My kid's right over there. And she's like, sure, I'll show up tomorrow. And really is about the culture is you don't have to have it right away. And as she will tell you, and as I'll admit, is one, taking the ego out of it. We talked about that earlier, because you don't know everything right now. Eventually it comes to you. It's part of the growing process. And as long as you allow yourself to grow and allow your team to grow with you, you're going to keep people, and you don't have to have it figured out right away. The dynamic between Ariel and I at the beginning was I'm still figuring it out. She's still learning. And it's like, what are we doing is much more high stress, even though we're doing, a fraction of the meals we're doing now. And because of that, it's just allow yourself to grow. Don't be too hard on someone. They're going to learn. You're going to learn. Just roll with the punches. You're going to have daily challenges. You're going to have a storm come through and knock the power out, and you're going to lose some product. You're going to have a delivery truck go down. You're going to have all sorts of issues pop up. Be patient, be cool, be calm, be collected. One thing about with staff, let them make mistakes. I've made some major mistakes. I've lost a lot of product, and allow your staff to do the same. If they learn from it, it's a lesson. If they don't, it's a mistake. And always preach that. Always preach. We're continually growing. And because of these relationships, that's how you get more better people. Then they'll tell their friends. Well, a lot of the people that have worked for us have either been gym mates, clients, or friends, and it's been different phases of the business. And we have another chef, Chef Sean, and he came to us. He was working in Austin on his way through town to, I think, Oklahoma. And his sister-in-law actually helped me start this business as well. She's my best friend, Hoyt, and gave me every Sunday, at the very beginning, just volunteered to help me figure this out. And he's come through town. Hey, can I work a weekend? Yeah, sure. I really don't know the guy, but he came in. He's got some experience. And he worked out great. Oklahoma really didn't have a lot. I think it fell through in some way. But then I was like, hey, man, because of these relationships, you want a job? And he's like, yeah, sure. And then with him, with me, with her, now we're at this place where we're a 3-chef team. And because we've established a culture of caring, of concern, of genuine passion for our people, allow people to make mistakes, allow people to succeed, allow people to have the flexibility to not be micromanaged and do their own thing, then you keep people. And then when you keep people, they pass that passion down and that happiness, that joy to your staff. And when your hourlies are happy, everybody's happy. The hardest.
So it's the 3 of you in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Just curious about some logistics. And then do you have some people who come in hourly a couple days a week and help you?
We have 5? Yeah, I think we have 5 hours. So it's an 8-man cook team. And like I was saying, like one of the hardest positions to staff is the dishwasher, right? And everyone pulls their weight around here. But that's the thing is like, you have to pass your passion down to everybody in the building. There's no one too high. There's no one too low. There's no one that doesn't deserve the culture that you create. And when you have that type of environment, people want to work for you. Like I'm so blessed these days because our staff wants more hours. They want more days. They don't want a second job. They like being meal prep, or weekend warriors. And it's so rewarding when like, I want to work for you. For me, it's just heartwarming. And so when you express that to your entire staff, then that's when you maintain people. Like we've knock on wood, but you get major retention then. and people stick around with you. They fight for you. And when the clients come in and let's say we're running a little late and they're still cleaning up or something, and they see everyone just happy and working, and you want to see that. You don't want to walk into a restaurant or a bar or anything and just see upset staff. Like, nobody likes that, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. We could probably go for another hour. We are approaching the hour. So I think there's a couple of questions that hopefully maybe we can stay a little bit
Yeah.
over,
I'll
but
try to be
yeah,
quick.
no, you're great. Keep going. But I would love to hear talk about delivery. How you think about delivery, the path from how you handled delivery at the beginning to how you handle it now, your viewpoint on what types of vehicles to have and how you've really thought about that. And how far you go. I think that would be very helpful for some folks.
All right. Narrow your delivery path. If you're in a highly populated area, narrow your delivery path. My early on mistake was I was like, I'm going to deliver to Las Colinas. I'm going to deliver almost to Arlington, which, if you don't know, the DFW area is probably 15-mile radius. Narrow it down. Keep it simple. People outside your radius, if they want your product, they'll come to you, right? And it also gives you another chance to engage the client. But keep it narrow.
And when you say that engage the client, like it gives you, if someone comes and picks up at the kitchen,
Yes,
it gives you a
if someone
chance to
comes and
interact with them.
because I used to on delivery route when I only had the one vehicle, I was delivering because you got to keep cold food cold. Very important, food safety. That's our number one concern is food safety, keeping cold food cold. But my delivery route when I was just doing it myself would be 8 to 9 hours, and I would be delivering from 2 till almost midnight sometimes. Nobody wants to get a delivery. That's just, but I extended myself too far. And then luckily we were fortunate enough to get a second vehicle and narrow that down. But really, take it easy. Expand when you have the ability to expand. We just expanded our delivery radius to about 6-7 miles from the kitchen now, which is a big area in Dallas. But like we have 4 trucks now and they're all refrigerated and it makes a lot more sense now. But there's enough mouths to feed in your area. If you're going to deliver, don't go too far. Once you are big enough, once you have the ability, once you have locked in drivers and locked in vehicles, yes, you can do that. You can do hot shots in personal vehicles as long as it's under 30 minutes and not Texas heat. But you want food safety to be your number one concern. We've gone through a series of vehicles, old mail trucks, old Ford Transit Connects, new Ford Transit Connects, new Mercedes Sprinters. One actually burnt down. That's a whole nother story. But what we found is best. So our fleet now consists of the mail truck. If you look on our Instagram, PDC Meal Prep, you can see all these trucks. The mail truck is awesome. It's our show pony. It's our party wagon. It's for events. The Mercedes Sprinter is great. They're expensive. They have warranties, which is awesome, but they're large and in charge. And to get a fridge box form, look up Cold Tainer or Cold Cube or Convoy Cube, Cold Tainer or Convoy Cube. That's what we have. They're a little more expensive these days, but the bigger ones, they're great, but they're not as efficient as the small ones. The vehicle of choice for us is the Ford Transit Connects. I've got 2 of those. I got a new one, luckily warranted, and an older one. It's on maybe its last leg, but you get one of the smaller boxes and it can survive the Texas heat. You plug that truck in for a couple hours, it gets down to 40 degrees, and then now you extended your delivery. And the biggest part is one of the hardest parts of owning vehicles and doing your own deliveries is insurance and trusting people to drive your trucks. They're your brand, they're very expensive, and it's a key part of your business. So you want something that everybody can drive. The Sprinter, only a few people can drive. The Transit Connects, everybody can drive. The Bomb Pop, which is the mail truck, there's like me and one other person that can drive it. So really you want to make it accessible for your people. So you don't have to have the biggest flashiest thing. And that was one of the things I had to learn the hard way when we bought the 2 Sprinter vans one year. One burned down. Luckily, insurance, get fully insured. Please get fully insured. Luckily, insurance took care of that. But it's also, that's the vehicle that's been dinged or backed into another vehicle or this and that. And it's great because we do our own shopping and we can load everything into it. But as far as delivery goes, smaller is better. Smaller is better.
Interesting. So you do all your own shopping. So you guys go to,
We use companies like Chef's Produce for most of our produce. We use like Restaurant Depot, this and that, because when you're selling an $11 box, you can go with a big company that brings it to your door and you're going to pay $3 a pound for chicken. And then chicken's crazy right now. Or you can go to the pick it up yourself, Restaurant Depot type stores or chef stores or stuff like this, and you can get it for much less. So you got to watch your margins. It's about your food cost, quality and cost. So as long as they have a good product and you just go shop it yourself, you're going to save some money. You're going to pass that quality onto the clients. And then you're not going to go under because you're having to make a 15 case minimum when you're just getting started.
So what is your philosophy on food costs and quality, and how do you think about that? Or is it all, do you
Well,
manage it mostly in the way you just talked about, where you're like buying the best quality you can, but also maintaining a price point that you think will make sense? What's your general philosophy,
so
high
this
level, on?
so now that we have a chef team, it's our chef Sean. That's his thing, as he goes through and prices out our people to say, hey, whose chicken is the best, or XYZ. Because once you figure out the quality of the product, like, always maintain a high quality. But just because you're ordering from Benny Keith and it's $4 a pound, but then you have Restaurant Depot's $2 a pound, like really managing that. And so it goes back to keeping your menu concise. So with the rotating of the menu, it's not just keep things fun and fresh, all like that. It's also keep things seasonal. And when your produce isn't season, you're going to see the price drop. Like when bell pepper is out of season, I'll pay $60 a case. When it's in season, I'll pay $20 a case. And it's just like really keeping a wide variety of meals, of flavors, of colors. That if you do it that way, you're going to see your food costs just consistent. Over the last 2-3 years, we have not seen our food costs jump more than a point. And it's just because of due diligence. Check your pricing, check your vendors, check everything, and keep it seasonal. The more seasonal it is, the better the quality and the better the price.
Very cool. We have two final questions that I do want to
Yeah.
get to, and we're almost at time here. Hannah from On the Road Meals asked about wholesale accounts. Are you doing any wholesale? And if so, has it been worth it for you? Or
Good
would
question.
you?
The short answer is no. I've not done any wholesale. I have talked to a much larger meal prep lady in upstate New York, and it was a great conversation. She does wholesale. We just got a fridge called Byte Technologies, BYTE. Google that. It's a vending fridge. So you stock it, they swipe their card, they pull it out, it detects what pulled out and closed it. That's the only like offsite sales we do. Being meal prep, our numbers are tight. Everyone knows that. Our margins aren't, we're not making $1 million, like I said. We're doing this for passion and profit as well, but that comes second. So no wholesale as of yet. We have dabbled with the idea, but just haven't locked anything down though. I know a lot of other companies I've talked to outside of like competing markets will partner with hospitals and they do stuff like that. But really what it is, just it's about partnerships. So we have drop locations where I'll give the gym owner and head coach a discount, but then I just set up a fridge there and use it as a drop location. I stick away from profit sharing. I stick away from wholesale because it's harder for us to really make that make sense. So you take $2 off your price tag, then what are you left with?
On the gym front, do you brand those and wrap those fridges, or do you just kind
Yeah.
of do like, cool?
So this is the door of a fridge we just lost, but it says come to the prep
Sweet.
side. It's
That's
the
awesome.
Jedi with a meal. And then they cut my dog off it, but all the branding, it has my dog as the Jedi as well. And
Amazing.
yeah, he's my little mascot.
That's
You
awesome.
want your name on there because it's not just a fridge for a drop. It's your branding. I learned that from actually Territory. It's a former like national brand that didn't survive the pandemic, but they had in every gym branded fridge, and it makes you look like, what is that? Be loud, be proud, get your name out.
Yeah. Well, we could do a whole nother session on branding, because I think you've
Mm.
done a masterful job on your
Thank you.
brand. I'm going to let Dave close it out with a very simple question, and then we can final kind of remarks. But he wanted to know, what's your ratio of pickup to delivery? So how much
Oh,
pickup are
great
you seeing
question.
delivery?
Since we have our own storefront now, storefront kitchen, I would say it's probably 2-to-1. Yeah, two to one pickup to delivery. So we get about 175 to 200 orders a week, and on delivery we'll see 60 of those. Yeah, and that's over 2 days. So we deliver Sunday evenings and Monday lunch. But yeah, we'll see 125 of them as pickup clients. But we have the capability of doing that though, and it's
125 is delivery or pickup?
pickups.
And so
So
75 delivery and 125 pickup. So
yes,
you're doing more pickup than delivery.
yes, a lot more
And
pickup.
when you say pickup, does that mean pickup at a gym as well, or does that mean pickup only
Oh
to
no,
your?
that's just at the kitchen. So that's
Got
not
it. Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
So,
Awesome.
and well, it's because our delivery is only $5. I only charge $5 to cover gas. And part of that goes towards the drivers as well. But it's people like picking up because one thing I would recommend if you do pickups, offer something. So what we do every week is we make popcorn, handmade popcorn. We make our own seasoning blend every week. We change up. People get excited for that. They're like, man, I only pick up because of the popcorn. And it's something fun and extra and nichey that Like people just enjoy it. It's one other level of engagement. If I, one last point, ABCD, always be collecting dots. It's a Danny Meyer quote from Setting the Table. That's just another way to collect the dots. So collecting dots is bits of information because then you can use that to talk to this guest, talk to this guest. Oh, this person's a dentist. Oh, this person's a dental hygienist. And then you connect them and then they start a relationship. Always be collecting dots. Popcorn collects dots.
Amazing. I think that's a good place to end it. Danny Meyer Setting the Table is probably the reason I'm sitting here. I read that book on a bus ride from New York to DC and decided
Great book.
I want amazing book. Highly recommend it. So we've got 2 book recs. I think this is the first podcast where we've actually had 2 book recs come out. So that's great. And yeah, just an amazing conversation, Brad. Really appreciate it. So proud to have you as part of our platform on Bottle, and appreciate everything you've done for us and for the Dallas community. And I really appreciate you taking the time. So I think we've answered all the questions from what I can tell. And yeah, this was a great chat. Thank you everyone for joining, and we'll have the recording
Any
posted
meal
soon.
preppers out there that ever want to chat, just shoot us a message on Instagram. I love telling my story. I love hearing your story, and just keep selling great food. Build your community.
Amazing. We'll end with that. Thanks, Brad. Have a great day.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right, bye.